World War II is seared into our minds for its unimaginable destruction, a conflict that cost millions of lives. But what if that same war, the one that brought the world to its knees, also accidentally gave us the very tools to save it? These are 5 incredible and mostly forgotten inventions born from the chaos of war that went on to save millions more lives long after the fighting stopped. Let's kick things off with something you've probably got in a drawer right now. It's the universal fix for almost any problem, from a leaky pipe to a broken chair. But before it was the go-to for household repairs, it was a lifesaver on the battlefield. The problem was simple, but deadly. Ammo was shipped in metal boxes sealed with thin paper tape and wax. In the middle of a firefight, soldiers were fumbling with these flimsy seals, trying to peel them open. The tabs would just tear off, wasting precious seconds while under fire. Even worse, the seals would often break, letting moisture in and ruining the ammunition. The solution didn't come from a general or an engineer, but from a factory worker named Vesta Stout. She was the mother of 2 sailors, and she worried constantly about their safety. So she wrote a letter directly to President Franklin D. Roosevelt with a brilliant idea: a strong, waterproof tape made from cloth that you could tear with your bare hands. The idea got fast-tracked, and Johnson & Johnson developed the product we all recognize today. It was originally army green, and soldiers quickly nicknamed it duck tape because it was made with waterproof cotton duck cloth. Its wartime legacy was all about improvisation. Soldiers used it for everything: field repairing guns, patching holes in jeeps, and even as a makeshift bandage. But its life-saving power didn't stop when the war did. This military tool came home and was marketed for sealing air conditioning ducts. This is how it changed from duck to duct. Today, disaster relief groups like the Red Cross rely on it to patch up temporary shelters after hurricanes and earthquakes, preventing collapses and protecting vulnerable families. This humble roll of tape, born from a need to keep gunpowder dry, now helps keep people safe, from the simple to the truly revolutionary. Our next invention gave us the power to see the invisible, and in doing so, changed the course of the war and made our modern world possible. The problem was terrifying. By 1940, Britain stood alone against the full might of the German Luftwaffe. Their detection systems gave pilots just a few minutes' warning before a bombing raid, which wasn't nearly enough time to scramble their fighters. The question was a matter of survival. How do you fight an enemy you can't see coming? The answer was radar, radio detection and ranging. The idea wasn't brand new, but the first radar systems were enormous and totally impractical. The real breakthrough came from 2 British physicists, John Randall and Harry Boot. They invented the cavity magnetron, a device about the size of a book that could generate powerful microwaves. This was a complete game changer. It was so revolutionary that in 1940, a British delegation secretly brought one to the US in what one historian called the most valuable cargo ever brought to our shores. The cavity magnetron allowed radar to be built small enough to fit inside airplanes, giving Allied pilots the ability to spot enemy planes and submarines from over 80 miles away. The post-war legacy of this little device is huge. First, there's the happy accident. An engineer named Percy Spencer noticed the magnetron's microwaves could heat food, which led directly to the invention of the microwave oven. But its real life-saving impact is in the sky. Every single commercial flight you take is guided by a direct descendant of that wartime tech. Modern air traffic control is built on radar, allowing thousands of planes to crisscross the skies safely, avoid collisions, and land in terrible weather. Thanks in large part to radar, air travel has become dramatically safer since the 1950s. Our next invention wasn't a weapon or a machine. It was a biological breakthrough that transformed battlefield medicine and built the foundation of modern emergency care. The problem was blood loss. In World War I, a soldier with a serious injury often died from shock, not the wound itself. Giving whole blood transfusions on the front lines was nearly impossible. It needed refrigeration, precise blood typing and was a nightmare to transport. The big innovation for World War II was the mass processing of blood plasma. Spearheaded by brilliant scientists like the African-American surgeon Dr. Charles Drew, new methods were perfected to separate plasma, the liquid part of blood. This liquid plasma was much easier to handle than whole blood. It was stable, could be transported without refrigeration, and was universally donatable so it could be given to anyone in an emergency. A medic on the battlefield could have a life-saving transfusion ready in minutes. It meant that a wounded soldier could get critical care in hours, not days. The legacy of this wartime effort is the entire system of modern blood banking. The Blood for Britain campaign, which Dr. Drew organised, used mobile donation stations called bloodmobiles and created the blueprint for the civilian blood drives we have today. After the war, these techniques became standard in hospitals everywhere. Every major surgery, organ transplant, and emergency room procedure today relies on having blood and plasma ready to go. The incredible survival rates for trauma patients in a modern ER are possible because of a system born from the desperate need to save one soldier at a time. This next invention was so secret, its very existence was denied for more than 30 years after the war. It was a machine that never fired a shot, but may have done more to win the war than any army. The problem was code. The Allies had famously cracked Germany's Enigma machine, but the Nazi High Command had an even tougher system for their most secret messages, the Lorenz cipher. It was considered unbreakable. It would take a team of human code breakers weeks, maybe months, to decipher a single message, and by then, the intel would be completely useless. The solution was built in total secrecy at Bletchley Park in the UK. An engineer named Tommy Flowers, inspired by the theoretical work of the legendary Alan Turing, led a team to create the world's first programmable electronic digital computer, Colossus. It was an absolute monster, the size of a room and packed with over 2,000 glowing vacuum tubes. By the war's end, 10 Colossus machines were running, churning through thousands of characters per second to find patterns in the German codes. It fed critical intelligence to Allied commanders, including General Eisenhower, right before the D-Day landings. Historians at Bletchley Park estimate that the code-breaking effort shortened the war by at least 2 years, which may have saved tens of millions of lives. But its secret legacy is the device you're watching this on right now. Our number one invention is a drug that was discovered by accident, but became the miracle that defined 20th century medicine. It gave humanity a weapon against an invisible enemy and saved more lives than any other invention on this list. The problem was infection. Before World War II, a deep shrapnel wound or even a simple bacterial infection like pneumonia was often a death sentence. The Scottish scientist Alexander Fleming had discovered penicillin way back in 1928, but it was just a lab curiosity. It was incredibly hard to produce in any real quantity. The Allies were facing the horrifying possibility of losing more soldiers in hospital beds than on the battlefield. The innovation was a massive government-led push for mass production. In 1941, British scientists brought the problem to the United States, launching an unprecedented team-up between the government, universities, and drug companies. In a lab in Peoria, Illinois, scientists found a more potent strain of the mold on a cantaloupe from a local market and developed new deep tank fermentation methods that blew the lid off production. Output skyrocketed from just enough to treat a few people to 2.3 million doses ready for the D-Day invasion alone. It's estimated that penicillin cut the death rate for wounded Allied soldiers from bacterial infections by as much as 15%. The legacy of penicillin is nothing less than the entire antibiotic revolution. After the war, the drug became available to everyone, changing medicine forever. Diseases like syphilis, gangrene, and scarlet fever were no longer death sentences. Complex surgeries, childbirth, and organ transplants all became dramatically safer because the threat of infection plummeted. The World Health Organization estimates that antibiotics, the age of which was kicked off by penicillin, have saved at least 200 million lives since the 1940s. It was the weapon that didn't just help win the war, but went on to save the world. From a simple roll of tape to a room-sized computer and a life-saving mold, the pressures of World War II forced us to innovate in ways that are still shaping our world today.